Hi guys, welcome back to Thinkers and Drinkers with Cigars. I'm Rich.
Jason.
And thank you for joining us for episode 3. We've had such a great turnout for the first 2 episodes. And Jason, what I've been told by quite a few people is we're supposed to ask the audience within the first 2 minutes of the video to like and subscribe. So hit that like button, subscribe. If you have any comments, put them below. We would love to hear how we're doing because we feel like we're kind of banging it, I think.
I think so. I think it's going well. We've got a lot of comments, a lot of feedback.
Yeah.
I'm really happy and impressed by it.
Yeah, we've had a really good run the last 3 weeks.
I know.
It's been exciting. We've just, you guys, the fans, thank you.
And just people actually message us and say, hey, when are you guys doing another one?
Yeah.
We really want to see this.
It was really cool.
Yes.
You went someplace cool last night?
Yeah, so last night I was outside and I was walking my dogs, which I try to do every night. And, well, I got to see a little more than I expected to.
Yeah, guys, the story is insane.
So, walking the dogs, we all walk our dogs at night. We try to pay attention to surroundings. And, fortunately, this lady's dog got out of her house. And I don't think she was quite fully prepared for that because it came after my dog and me. And be it was a little tiny dog, it was nothing to be afraid of. But she ran out without some clothing apparel on, let's say.
What does that mean? It was 20 degrees.
It was cold out, yes, and I really felt sorry for her. So watch your dogs. don't let your dogs get out of your house without you being ready for it.
What Jason's not telling you guys, she was mostly nude.
Yes,
it was very nipply out
that
night.
Yes, it was cold.
Yes.
But
all right. So what we promised was, I tried the round ice. Got the tray here, boiled the water. I'm not sure what I did wrong, but it did not come out as clear as I want. But it's still cool in the glass. And last episode we said we were going to do the Woodford Reserve to the double barrel Woodford Reserve.
Double oak.
Double oak. Yeah, because the only double barrel I know is a shotgun.
Yeah.
But it's still the brewing, it's the term used for the brewing process. And I did a little research, and our very own Montecristo's Classic came up on quite a few to pair with the Woodford Reserve.
And this is the Classic series?
This is the Classic series. It has coffee, cedar, and creme brulee. So it's supposed to be a sweet taste to pair with the 2 bourbons that we got.
Okay. All right.
And matches, because Jason is
Yeah,
going to learn how to use the matches tonight.
I'm totally going to mess that up. So just be ready to laugh.
Yeah, all right.
And a big shout out, I wanted to remind us that we are doing this for a friend of mine up north, Terry. Terry, I went and got it like I promised. So we're going to see. I got a lot of faith in her.
Yeah, I do too.
Got a lot of faith in you, Terry. So hopefully I like this. Because, looking at this and doing some research, there is a double oak that, from my understanding, is only released one time a year, and it's only sold in Kentucky.
But what time of year? So we can
I didn't I gotta admit I didn't follow up that that in depth on it. Once I read once a year and in Kentucky, I'm like, the odds of me being able to get up there are not very good.
I'm sure there are locals that wait for that to come out.
Oh yeah, yep.
It's got a nice scent. It's very sweet. And this is one of their milder cigars. Jason, I remember once you were telling me Montecristo, I didn't even realize till we got these that they made cigars, and I know you told me that, and I probably wasn't paying attention. Did they make cigars and then open up the?
I want to. Yeah, I'm taking out a lot because it's going to probably take all of them. So it'd probably be easier if I just lit the box on fire.
All right.
I think the Montecristo cigars started first, and I believe that they got larger, and then they just acquired some shops.
They have a lot to choose from, and like last episode with Tobacco, they had 25. I think Montecristo has way more. How's that going?
It ain't.
Yeah.
I might give it 2 more tries.
Right. I want to sit and watch because it's kind of funny. See, it's a different experience with the match.
Getting there.
Yeah. You got half of it lit. You taste the difference?
Mm-hmm.
The sulfur, right?
Yeah.
Almost. I brought the lighter just in case.
That's a good thing. I think we might need a little bit of the butane.
Oh, I filled it. Well, that was a fail. Here, this is harder. You know, I should have pre-taken these out myself.
I got it now. It's going.
So you know, I've got the 3 boys,
Yeah.
and they're pretty young.
They are young because they call me sir, and
Yeah.
wow, now I feel old.
I felt old the first time a cop pulled me over and called me sir.
He just assumed you had a license
Yeah.
and insurance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, raising boys, that's a tough thing. I
It
mean,
is.
I've got one myself. Great kid, love him. You know, he grew up and he's growing up, and a lot harder times than what you and I grew up in. I mean, when we grew up in the
90s.
80s, 90s.
80s, 90s, our teens and early 20s were the 90s. Right. So we grew up in the 90s, and that was the heyday for toxic masculinity.
It was the jock culture,
Mhm.
you know, the poor kids that got picked on and everything, and it was a great time, but it was the worst of times. I think wasn't there something like that? It was the best of the times. It
Best
was
of
the
the worst of times. That was
Was it not Charles Dickens?
Tale of Two Cities.
It
Was
was
it Tale of Two Cities?
Tale of Two Cities.
Yeah.
Or
I mean-
Crime and Punishment.
No,
Tale of Two Cities.
Tale of Two Cities.
That was coming from our producer.
Yeah.
So it really was. I mean, it was you know, coming out of the 80s. You know, I mean, everything was the 80s, the decade of
Decadence.
excess.
Yeah, excess.
You know.
Yeah.
So the kids now, I mean, I feel for them. I think that they have it harder than we did in a different way.
They have a different type of bullying.
I do.
And it's all over social media.
Yeah, and the cyberbullying is really hard for the kids.
And we've gotten a couple of emails from the parents about text threads and social media. Our kids do not
yeah,
involved in any of that.
right.
But it's cool that the teachers are looking out for that, because there are still that bully.
There is.
And you guys might not know this based on how I dress, but I was very bullied when I was in high. Oh yeah, very bullied when I was in high school.
Yeah. I think everybody to an extent was, because there was so much pressure on kids back then to be cool, to be the tough kid and everything.
Yeah. And jock cheerleader culture ran our high school.
It did. So, to get back to our Woodford, I'm pretty sure this is the Woodford. This is the double oak.
The left side is the regular Woodford.
Okay.
The double oak is on our right. And I don't know if you guys can see in the camera, but there is
There's a
color.
slight color difference.
It's darker. And hopefully it's not the ice, but I think there's a color difference. I'm gonna go Woodford, the double. I'm gonna try.
She's right.
Yeah,
This is good.
I still love that. Smooth, crisp. Let me cleanse the palate here with a cigar. This smells more robust. Ooh, that's really good. That is it. Wow, there's after notes that are different that you could actually taste more oak in this. And there's a cool little story on how, is it called double barrel or double oak?
Double oak.
Double oak, okay. Back in 1910, Old Forester Bourbon, their bottling plant caught fire. And they had this whole vat of bourbon, but they didn't want to waste, so they just dumped it into other barrels. And when the bottling factory finally got up and running, they were like, this tastes different taste. And so you got to brew the first single barrel is in the oak charred oak barrels. Then after it's hit its peak, they transfer it to another barrel that's lightly toasted.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And now that's replicated based on an accident.
Yep. And I think that leads back to what we were talking about earlier with, you know, the toughness and everything growing up. Back then, when they did that, they went, it'll be okay. Let's just do it. And today, now, if something like that happens, you know, they're going to throw it all away. Not necessarily saying people back then were tougher, you know, but
frugal.
And, you know, and we powered through stuff. And that's what, you know, I'm worried about the kids nowadays of, you know, the stuff they got to power through, the cyberbullying, the economy. You know, how do these young kids make it? And I think a lot of that we need to bring in, you know, like what we were saying when we grew up in the 80s and 90s of, you know, the kids, our generation needs to do something to help the younger generations coming up.
I agree.
Not the toxic masculinity.
No.
Not the, you know, we're not talking about the old, and I'm sure you remember when we were growing up, the cartoons that had the caveman that hit the cave woman over the head and he drug her by the hair to the cave. That is certainly not what we're saying, but a lot of it is the kids now today, we need to help them get a little tougher.
Yes, but not to the hair pulling,
not
tie him to the train tracks,
none of that,
masculinity. And I feel that the generation that's coming up is losing how to work with their hands.
They are, for sure. Working with your hands, I cannot stress the importance of, you know, knowing how to do that, because I am even guilty of myself, you know, of not showing, you know, people, you know, how do you do this with your hands, you know. We just figured it out.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's kind of like, you know, somebody asks you, how do you do that? Well, how do you do anything? You figure it out. And I think that's what we got to start instilling in the boys especially is, you know, boys, you know, to become a man in society and you're going to fail, but to succeed, you've got to try.
Yeah. There's also this huge divorce culture. We were at maybe 30% when we were growing up.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's 80% now that
it's
families...
Probably high, yeah.
Families, and speaking of, there's a whole group of you ladies out there that are doing an amazing job being single moms.
Yes.
My girlfriend, when she got divorced, she had this house, and she had to figure all of that out, how to fix everything on her own, and she did. And she's a strong woman, and to those strong women, my tip doffed my hat to you.
Yeah.
And that's another thing is, these kids, we grew up, again, in a throwaway culture.
We did.
And my dad, bless his heart, he wasn't handy at all. And I, growing up, thought that was a hindrance, so I always try to learn how to fix things. And kids today also have YouTube, and it's just a huge tool.
And that is great. You know, being able to pull up in something for the boys that don't have that YouTube of how to change oil in a car, and that's something, you know, that, I mean, where I grew up, we had vocational school. You know, vocational school was, you know, auto body, you know, shop, carpentry.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was even nursing classes, and it was working with their hands.
Yeah.
And you know, who's the guy that always talks about, working with Sam Muddy job, dirty jobs?
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking
Yeah.
about. But I can't stress that enough.
Mm-hmm.
We got to get back to the young men, the boys becoming young men and working with their hands, and learning how to build stuff. Because honestly, I mean, the trades, the career path that I'm in, it's we make the world go round, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. Not going to college is not anything to be ashamed of.
Which you brought up a couple of nights ago, and we had this whole discussion about going to college. Did you go?
I went for like, I don't know, 2 months. I was the worst student ever for 2 months, but I did go.
But you, my brother-in-law, same thing, 2 months, but you took your strengths and made a great life.
I knew I was not college material. My wife is 10 times smarter than me.
Mm-hmm.
She's college material. I am not. I never was. But I found something that I liked. Maybe not the best at it, but it provided a nice living.
Yeah.
The working with your hands is something I feel so strongly about. To get the young men into something and getting into activities, starting with the young kids, Boy Scouts, flag football.
I work with my hands in a different way. Yes, I try to learn how to fix things. I don't like throwing stuff out. My girlfriend will agree with me. She's like, you got to fix the stuff that you pile up. But I need to work with my hands. I sit in front of a computer all day. But I need something to do with my hands. And I'm an artist. So that's how I use my hands. And I sculpt and draw. And it's therapeutic to me. And even if I was doing something manual like HVAC, it's just me using my hands. I worked in construction for maybe about 2 years. I really liked it, but I wasn't using my education, which I was the first in my family to go to college. And back then, it was, to me, it felt important to go. But looking back, I feel like I could have done more. I would have been more satisfied with my career if I did something with my hands.
And there is definitely a spot for colleges. You want your doctor, you want your nurse, you want your attorney. To all
your accountant.
College, your accountant. You want those people. So it's not saying we don't need those people. We need everybody in our society. Everybody should contribute.
Plays a part.
And play a part. And I think just, the culture for the young men coming up, and the young men, they need to learn to treat the ladies and the women with respect. And that's something I think everybody has that stigma of, is in the 50s and 60s when dad came home, he was waiting there with came in and wanting his martini and his slippers. And that's out. That's not even a reality anymore. So we need to make sure that they know that's not what the young men growing up today should expect
at all. No, and I'm a big proponent of non-gender tasks in the house.
Yes, everybody does what they should. I mean, when my wife tells me it's time to do dishes, I do the dishes.
Today I vacuumed. We did lunch. I did laundry.
I'm not allowed to do the laundry because I am a firm believer that everything can go in the washer at the same time, and it's perfectly fine.
I'm the same way.
But let me tell you, it is not perfectly fine.
I have one pile and it's dirty.
You are not allowed to do that.
But when I was by myself, it was fine. Just throw the week's worth, or 2 weeks, 3 weeks, because I was by myself. 3 weeks worth, and I spent a half hour folding.
I don't think that this lighter is interested in.
How come I can do it and you can't?
I think it wants me to keep going with the matches.
Yeah, I want you to learn. Yeah. And it's full. Trash lighter.
I'm gonna say Terry is definitely right. I really do enjoy that.
Yeah, it is deeper, a deeper flavor.
And it was fairly easy to find.
But okay, for you guys out there, that's a $40 bottle. What was the price comparison?
That was $79.50.
Okay, so it's a big jump, and but
you don't gotta drink it all in one night.
no,
and that's something I'll say is I did have a conversation with one of our friends, and we were talking about this, and he has an extensive bourbon collection. He did stop drinking.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he drinks non-alcoholic beer now,
Mm-hmm.
which that's something that we're going to kind of dive in here in the next couple episodes is the beer market.
Yeah.
You know, not just the bourbon, but the beer market. But he had a great point. If you don't like a bourbon or a scotch when you first taste it, put it away for a couple months. Don't just throw it out or pump, you know, try it again in a couple months. And they get together in a group and of friends where they all kind of have maybe some bourbon they don't like, and you know they'll each kind of try it, and then maybe this person likes it, and that's a brilliant idea. That way you're not wasting it. What may not be for you may not be for them.
I wish we had more in our friend group.
Yeah,
I feel like it's just you and I.
Yeah.
And Stephanie,
And,
who likes bourbon.
and our producer Stephanie.
And our
Yes.
producer Stephanie.
But I thought that was a really great idea. I was like, man, and he's a smart guy, so I usually listen to what he says.
Is that Bill?
That would be Tom.
Tom. Okay.
Yep. He was a gentleman that I worked with up in Columbus, and he was a mentor to me. Great guy. So yeah, I talked to him, and I kind of feel like I'm way down on my bourbon collection. I think Tom is in the hundreds of bottles.
Oof.
Yeah. Yeah. So now he's probably got some he hasn't opened, but
that
this
is a big.
that is a big
The
collection.
thing is, now that we've been tasting these better bourbons, I don't even want to share it with you guys.
Right.
I don't.
Right.
You two. That's it.
It's definitely an enjoyable experience, and I think I was reading somewhere that the alcohol market and especially the bourbon market is down right now,
Which is weird because 8 years ago, bourbon became the trendy drink.
Oh, yeah.
And every restaurant had an old fashioned. And I'm sorry, restaurants, but there's only a handful of you guys that know how to make a good one.
Right.
The rest of them taste like it's sand. It's very scratchy.
I would say that we should try to make an old fashioned.
Yeah.
I just got in the mail the other day.
Do we? Yeah, go ahead.
We received our smoky top mix. I think it's called a mixology kit.
Yeah. Okay.
So we did receive that, and I think we ought to try to make an old fashioned.
You guys.
And hopefully everybody chimes in and says, "You're doing it wrong. This is how I do it, or this is how we do it." We had our first smoky top. Well, me at the Peninsula Prime. And I thought it was amazing.
Yeah. That was the second best smoked old fashioned. There was a place down in Palm Beach that had a box, and they smoked it with rosemary on it, and that was by far the best.
I'll have to look to see if that came in that box because there was several cans of wood chips, oak, all kinds of. I think there was a maple and everything that was with it. So to try each one of them.
I do like the name of the product, Smoke Show.
Smoky Show, yeah, Smoke Show. Yes.
And just a silly little side note, when we were in Vegas, we went to see the RuPaul live show, and we were sitting with a table of guys, and one of them turned to Steph and said, "Well, how'd you win this Smoke Show?" For a while, that was my nickname, was the Smoke Show.
The Smoke Show.
Yeah.
Yes. Vegas is quite the place. I've heard. I've been, and I heard it's quite the adventure.
I like the shows, and I also like walking down the Strip, and I like Fremont Street a lot. It's more grittier,
It is.
and I like that more than I like Old Vegas. Old Vegas, because I'm a history guy, and that's where the roots of Vegas started. Well, it started in a little.
It started in the desert.
In the
when
desert,
the desert with
but
nothing.
it was like a saloon,
Yeah.
a gambling saloon, and it was a way station for the people going to California for the gold rush. It was kind of a stopover,
Okay.
and they had gambling and
So
prostitution.
it was kind of like the Oregon Trail.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I think you did really good on picking this. This is the Montecristo Classic Series.
Mhm.
It really does pair well with
Yeah.
this.
We got this. We were there over Christmas. I was there with you, and they had a multi-pack, and I was surprised that when I was doing the research to pair, this popped up, and I was like, "Oh, I think I have that in my humidor."
So you can actually go online then, I imagine, just like anything else, and find pairings.
Oh,
of
yeah. Mhm.
Cigars, bourbon. Well, that's
Yeah.
good, and that will
Mhm.
help a lot of people that
And us.
and us, especially getting into this. Is what do I pair this with? Now I know like Maker's Mark, they have their own cigar that's dipped in it, and we've had those, and they are excellent.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would like to do an episode of us doing that pairing.
Okay.
Call out to you, Maker's Mark.
Yes. But yeah, good call on these. This is really well.
So, okay. Bourbon comparison?
Bourbon comparison, I gotta say Terry's right. It is.
Yeah.
It is.
It's definitely smoother.
more enjoyable. Not saying that the original
Mhm.
isn't great, but I do like this one.
Like, I feel like if you guys want just a normal bourbon, Woodford Reserve is always our favorite. But if you want a treat, spend a little bit of money and enjoy this, because it is really good.
And you don't have to drink it all at
No.
one time.
No. All right. Cheers. Thank you guys for joining us again for episode 3. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We would love to hear from you, so please leave your comments below. And we'll get back to any questions you have and tell us how we're doing, because we would love to hear from you.
Yes.
Good night, guys.